A lot of people get this question wrong. I'm going to go right to the answer here. The answer is factors. That's a word that is slightly different than the others. It is not completely different, but for most parabola quadratics questions in the SAT, it's different enough that you need to know the difference. So let's talk about the other three first. X-intercepts, zeros, those two you probably link very carefully in your mind to the points on the x-axis, right? So those are the x-intercepts right there. Now, we do call them zeros. We also sometimes call them roots, but very often they come up as solutions because when we have a quadratic equation, we need to solve it by setting it equal to 0. So ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And then we factor it, let's just say in this case x minus 5x plus 2 equals 0. We factor it because the 0 is so important to the way that we can solve these kind of more complicated quadratic equations. A line, different. We move everything away from the x. Quadratics, we have to get everything towards the x so we can set it equal to 0. So it's a little different than what we're used to. But solutions is kind of the word because that's what we get when we solve for x, right? We want it equal to 0, we want y equal to 0, and so then we can solve for x. So it's just a way that, parabolas and quadratics tend to work, that word solution is linked in there. So in this case, all three of these words would give us, for this quadratic, if this were -2 and 5, they would give us those values. -2. So these are the solutions, zeros, roots, x-intercepts, all that stuff. Those are the words that we're talking about. So what is a factor? What makes that a little different? The factors are the terms that gave us those. So the factors are the parenthetical kind of shorter equations that we get so that we can get the x-intercepts and the roots and the solutions. So they're intimately connected, but they're slightly different. And this does matter when we even go beyond parabolas into bigger equations with cubics and fourth roots and all that stuff. So what you need to do in your mind is link the idea of an x-intercept with the idea of a factor. They go together, but they're not quite the same thing. A factor is like a mini equation. The solution, the x-intercept, is what we get when we set that mini equation equal to 0. It's the actual value of x, the actual number.